Every year, families decorate, gather, and trust the season. This is the year something else came with Christmas. Welcome to the Black Hour Stories. Tonight's video delivers exactly what the title promised. 3 Christmas horror stories that didn't end with joy, warmth, or peace. These are the kinds of stories people remember every December, even when they wish they wouldn't. Stay to the end, because each story grows darker than the last, and the first one begins in a house that thought Christmas meant protection. The house sat at the edge of a small town where the road stopped being plowed once the snow got heavy. It had been there for decades, passed between families, and it always seemed to be empty when winter came. Locals said it never held warmth. Even in summer, the place stayed cold. This year, the Walker family moved in during the first week of December. They had 2 kids, a full-size tree, and a calendar already marked with Christmas plans. The house was cheap. That was the reason. No one mentioned why. On the first night, the heater ran nonstop and never reached 70 degrees. Cold air slid along the floors like water. The windows whispered when the wind passed. Still, the family laughed, unpacked boxes, and played music while snow piled up outside. 3 days before Christmas, the kids started hearing bells. At first, it sounded distant, soft, like wind brushing metal. Their parents said it was a neighbor decorating early. There were no neighbors close enough for that. The bells came every night at the same time, just after midnight. They stopped the moment anyone turned on a light. Christmas Eve arrived under heavy snow. Power lines drooped. The road vanished. The family was snowed in, but they didn't mind. They had food, candles, and the tree glowed in the living room, full of ornaments and warm light. The bells rang earlier that night. They rang while everyone was awake. They came from inside the house. The sound drifted from the hallway that led to the spare bedroom. A room still empty. A room they hadn't decorated. A room that stayed colder than the rest of the house. The father opened the door and found nothing. No bells. No decorations. Just frost forming on the inside of the window. When he shut the door, something pressed back from the other side. Not hard, not enough to move it, just enough to be felt. That night, no one slept. Sometime after 2 in the morning, the tree lights went out on their own. The room fell dark except for the glow of snow outside. Then the bells returned, louder than before, slow and steady, like someone walking closer. The kids watched the hallway. A shadow crossed the far wall, tall, thin, wearing something long that brushed the floor. It moved without sound, but the bells stayed in rhythm, one step at a time. The mother whispered for the kids not to move. The shadow stopped at the edge of the light. It didn't enter the room. It stood there, just outside the glow of the tree. Then it spoke. Not in words, in breath. Cold air rushed across the room. The smell of pine vanished. The candles went out. Frost climbed the walls in seconds, crawling like veins. The shadow leaned forward. Its shape was wrong, bent, hanging. The outline suggested a coat, maybe a hood, but the body beneath it was too narrow, too tall. The bells hung from its sleeves, not festive, not shiny, just old and dull, stained dark. The father grabbed a fireplace poker and stepped forward. The shadow raised one arm. The bells stopped. Every clock in the house struck midnight at once. The lights came back on. The hallway was empty. Christmas morning arrived silent. No snow fell. No wind moved. The house felt hollow, like something had been taken out of it. They packed that day. While loading the car, the youngest child reached into the tree to grab an ornament. His hand closed around cold metal. A small bell hung there, old, rusted, tied with a thin black string. No one had put it there. They left the tree standing and drove away before sunset. The house is empty again now. Every Christmas Eve, the bells ring inside it. And no matter how deep the snow gets, fresh footprints always lead to the front door. That was the first story. A reminder that not everything that comes with Christmas is meant to be welcomed. Story 2 goes somewhere colder, somewhere darker. Somewhere the lights never turn back on. Tell us where you're listening from in the comments. If this story stayed with you, like and subscribe to the Black Hour Stories. And when you hear bells this season, don't assume they're meant for you. The town put up decorations early that year. Lights wrapped every pole, wreaths hung in every window. A banner stretched across Main Street that read Merry Christmas in bright red letters. It looked cheerful, but no one stayed outside for long. The cold came fast and heavy. By mid-December, the sun barely showed itself. Snow didn't fall so much as drifted sideways, scraping skin raw. The power flickered every night. And just beyond the last streetlight sat the old Evergreen Motel. It had been closed for years. That's where the storms pushed Daniel Harper. He was driving home late on December 23rd, trying to beat the weather. The radio cut in and out. His phone lost signal miles back. When the road iced over, the car slid into a ditch with a dull thud. The engine died. The wind didn't. Daniel walked until his face went numb. The motel sign appeared through the snow, one letter still lit. EVERGREN flickered like a weak pulse. The office door was unlocked. Inside, everything smelled like dust and old pine cleaner. A single Christmas decoration sat on the counter. A plastic snow globe. No snow inside it. Just an empty scene. No one answered when he called out. The guest book lay open. Names filled the pages. All dated December. All years apart. Daniel took a room key from the hook. Room 6. The metal felt colder than the air. The hallway carpet crunched under his boots, stiff with frost. Christmas lights were nailed along the walls, unlit, wires sagging like dead vines. Room 6 opened easily. The room was warm. Too warm. A small heater hummed in the corner, already running. The bed was made. A thin artificial tree stood by the window, decorated with white ornaments shaped like stars. A wrapped present sat at the foot of the bed. Daniel didn't touch it. He locked the door and sat on the mattress, listening to the storm howl outside. For a moment, he felt safe. Then the heater shut off. The room dropped into silence. The Christmas lights along the hallway flicked on all at once, their glow bleeding through the curtains, soft, blue-white, cold. A knock came at the door. 3 slow taps. Daniel stood but didn't answer. The knock came again. This time, frost crept across the inside of the door, spreading from the handle outward. The room temperature fell fast. His breath fogged the air. A voice came through the wood. Not loud, not angry, polite. It wished him a Merry Christmas. Daniel backed away. The door handle turned on its own. The lights outside flickered, revealing a shadow stretched thin across the hallway wall. It stood upright, wearing something long and dark. Its head brushed the ceiling. The handle stopped turning. The voice spoke again, closer now. It said it was cold. It said it had been waiting. Daniel grabbed the phone. No signal. The window wouldn't open. I sealed it shut from the outside. The knocking moved to the walls, soft at first, then steady, like fingers tapping from every side. The Christmas tree shook. One of the white stars fell to the floor and shattered. Inside was nothing. No glass, no weight, just cold air. The present on the bed shifted. The wrapping tore itself open. Inside lay a motel room key. Room 6. The knocking stopped. The lights went out. The door swung open. The hallway was empty, but the carpet was marked with long, wet footprints leading away from the room. Each step stretched farther than the last, as if whoever made them was growing taller with every stride. Daniel ran. He didn't remember leaving the building. He didn't remember the road. He only remembered the cold leaving his body all at once. They found his car the next morning, still in the ditch. The motel stood dark behind it. Room 6 was warm. The heater hummed. A new name appeared in the guest book. Dated December 23rd. Some places don't close for the season. They wait. The third story begins on Christmas morning in a house full of family, food, and laughter, and something hiding in plain sight. Tell us where you're listening from in the comments. If you're enjoying this Christmas nightmare, like and subscribe to the Black Hour Stories. Christmas morning arrived clear and quiet. The kind of morning families waited all year for. No snow falling, no wind. Just cold air and pale light sliding through the windows. The Brooks house was already full. Grandparents in the living room, kids on the floor tearing paper, coffee brewing, the smell of ham and cinnamon hanging heavy in the air. The tree stood tall in the corner, crowded with ornaments collected over decades. Everything felt right. That was the problem. The dog refused to come inside. He sat on the porch, stiff and low, growling at the door like something stood behind it. When the door opened, he backed away, whining, eyes locked on the hallway beyond the entry. No one paid attention. The gifts kept coming. Halfway through the morning, someone noticed an extra present under the tree. It was wrapped in plain brown paper. No tag, no name, tied with a thin red string. No one remembered bringing it. They laughed about it, joked that Santa had good aim this year. The kids begged to open it, but the adults said later, after breakfast. The present stayed where it was. As the morning went on, small things felt off. An ornament turned on its own. A feeling of being watched settled in the room, thick and heavy. The tree lights flickered, then steadied. The house stayed warm, but the air around the tree felt colder. Every time someone walked past the present, they slowed down without meaning to. Just a step, just a second. At 10:30, the grandfather sat down too fast and went quiet. He stared at the tree with a strange focus, mouth open slightly, like he was listening to something no one else could hear. When asked what was wrong, he blinked and said nothing. Sighed he was tired. He didn't move again. They thought it was his heart. The ambulance took too long. While they waited, the present shifted. Not much, just enough to wrinkle the paper. No one noticed except the youngest child. She pointed and said the box was breathing. They told her not to joke like that. By the time the paramedics arrived, the grandfather was gone. The house felt different after that. Too quiet. Like the walls were holding their breath. Someone suggested opening the last present, a distraction. Something to change the mood. They gathered around the tree, the red string untied easily, the paper slid away without tearing. Inside was a mirror, old, tall, framed in dark wood, carved with shapes that didn't quite make sense. Faces seemed to twist along the edges when no one looked directly at them. The mirror glass was cloudy. When they lifted it upright, the room reflected back at them, almost. The tree looked thinner in the glass, the lights dimmer. And behind the family, standing where no one stood in the room itself, was another figure, tall, pale, wearing something long and black that brushed the floor. It didn't move. The grandmother screamed. The mirror cracked straight down the center. The lights went out. In the dark, something moved fast. Cold hands brushed skin. Breath touched ears. A weight pressed into the room, heavy and starving. When the lights came back on, the mirror was gone. So was the youngest child. They found her an hour later, standing in the hallway, staring at the wall. She wouldn't speak, wouldn't blink. When they turned her gently, her reflection lagged behind by half a second. Christmas ended early that year. They packed the decorations away before sunset. The tree went out to the curb, ornaments still hanging. That night, as the trash truck passed, the driver swore he saw a tall mirror standing in the branches, reflecting a house that no longer felt full. 3 stories, 3 reminders. Not every gift is meant to be opened. Not every place is meant to feel warm. And not everything that shows up on Christmas comes with good intentions. Tell us where you're listening from in the comments. If this haunted your holiday, like and subscribe to the Black Hour Stories. And before you go to sleep tonight, take one last look around the room. Make sure everyone you see belongs there.